Okay. Woo! Skibby dibby 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 dibby. La 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 la. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. This is the Learn with John Eick podcast, and it is day 122? Question mark. I think it's day 122 on my 180-day drive to school and work. I got a little frog in my throat. Okay, here we go. Gosh, it's funny. I was thinking about this. If I were walking to work, my podcast would be much more about the environment through which I'm walking. But because I'm in a car, I'm kind of separated from the natural environment. I do think I comment on the weather, like, oh, it's cold today, or oh, it's raining today, or oh, it's a beautiful blue skies day. I think I do comment on it, but I think the comments would be much more rich if I were walking, right? Because it's cold outside right now in California, right? I know you're in Minnesota going, John, you're not cold, but like we are cold for us. And if I were walking to school, the entire podcast would be about how cold I am. But like we have this amazing technology, and we're like somewhat separated from our natural environment, but like we have windows, so it's close enough. We get to see it. I don't know. That's not what we're riffing on today, but kind of it is in some respects, because I'm listening to this podcast. You know how it goes, man. You like click on something, and you're like, well, that seems fascinating. And it's, talking about this brain research regarding how the human body and the human brain have developed over, a bajillion years, and how, for 99.9% of human evolution, we've been hunters and gatherers. And just in this very short amount of time, we've begun to live in this caloric dense, food-rich environment. And I get that, like, we talk about food scarcity in the modern content, in modern society. Food scarcity is a real thing, juxtaposed to the food-rich environment that that the average person lives in. So, like, yes, there's food scarcity when compared to like the food-rich communities that we thrive to live in, but in comparison to the hunter and gatherer, we're in a vastly more food-rich environment. But this podcast is about how the brain of the hunter-gatherer seeks out caloric-rich foods, and that gives your brain a shot of dopamine that says, hey, this food right here, this is a good one right here. What you want some of this food right here, because it's caloric dense. And so then the hunter-gatherer is triggered to be like, cool, that's a food that I want. And then you're like, okay, fast forward to today, in the very short time span, we've been able to go, hey, what we can do? We can take these foods apart down to their molecular level, or their, maybe not their molecular, yeah, but to their base levels, and we can extract, the portion of this food that gives you that dopamine shot. We can get we can get sugar and refine it all by itself. And then you can put that sugar anywhere, and you're gonna get that dopamine shot and make the food really addictive and property rich from the perspective of like, oh, your brain is gonna want you to feel the yum yum trigger on this food. But no longer does it have like the fibers and the other properties that your body actually was craving. So like if you're a hunter-gatherer and you hiked 5 miles and then climbed a tree and ate a banana, your food or your brain would be like, hey, totally worth it. You're gonna want to come back to this tree for more of this yum yum banana because it's good. But now if we just take the sugar out of all the fruit, and we put it in a Snickers bar, and we throw it on the gas station shelf, and we're separated from our natural environment, like I've been talking about, and now we're just modern man, and we grab the Snickers and we bite into it. Our brain goes, ooh, you're gonna want more of this yum yum, come back here and eat more of this, and it's but it's actually not filled with the fibers that the banana has and the other properties like the vitamin the banana has and the minerals the banana has. And so we're kind of fooling ourselves. Now, why am I talking about that today? Well, first of all, I just think it's something I think we've all heard before, because I think, this is not a brand new concept. I think this is a concept that rattles around in the ether of people who are interested in this type of garbage. But what is interesting to me is the recognition that our brains don't evolve, as quickly as we all think they do. Like, we are still hunters and gatherers of the last 100,000, 200,000 years. Because look, we still have 10 fingers and toes. We haven't quickly said, I don't need that little toe. Let's be honest, we can get away with 8. And maybe someday we will. Maybe someday we'll have 8 toes. But it ain't gonna happen for a long, long time, because evolution is slow. And our brains are the same way. Our brain still thinks that, like, we're hunters and gatherers, and so it treats food that way. But you know what else about our brain is always fascinating to me is that little almond-shaped portion of the brain, it's about the size of your thumb, and it's called the amygdala. It's actually called the amygdala, but it's spelled amygdala. The amygdala, gives you that fight or flight or freeze syndrome in your brain. I think it's so fascinating that it doesn't work that much differently than it did when we were, wandering through the forest, the jungle, the countryside, hunting and gathering. Like, we were out gathering some, fruits and some berries and some nuts and some whatnots, and we were also doing some hunting. But every once in a while, we became the hunted. Like, a grizzly bear or a moose. Or, I don't name a big animal. Clearly, I'm separated from the earthly environment. I'm like, I don't know, what's a scary animal? A shark? At some point, we're out there doing our thing, and we're presented with something that could harm us. And our amygdala fires, and it goes, hey, man, you are going to either have to fight this grizzly bear, or run like heck, or freeze, don't move. And maybe it'll go away. And your body fills with adrenaline, and you are given superhuman strength and spidey senses to, like, be very aware of everything that's going on around you. And the world goes into slow motion, and it's in slow motion, and you're somewhat kind of it's so much you're at your best, right? You're like superhuman strength, superhuman senses. The world's in slow motion. You can walk through the raindrops. Your amygdala has fired and given you all this adrenaline. Your heart is pumping. And just like the Snicker bars tells your brain that it's a banana, the modern stimuli to fire the amygdala is modern stimuli. And the amygdala doesn't know that the social stressors of modern society is any different than the grizzly bear. The amygdala is just the amygdala. It goes, hey, danger! And then the adrenaline fires. So, what is a danger today? Well, I don't want to get into some of the dangers that are real, because they are real and they are out there and they are tragic, and some of them are natural and they're terrifying, and some of them are seemingly unnatural and terrifying and disheartening, and maybe that's for another podcast. But today, like, some of the amygdala firing episodes that we see in a modern classroom, for example, aren't a grizzly bear, but they're just as real because they're social dangers. So I'm a 12-year-old kid, and I know that the kids all around me have their cell phones out, and they're ready to take a picture of me if I slip up and lose any form of social grace. And if I lose a form of social grace and lose some social status in some scenario, and that loss of social status is broadcast across the Snapchats and the InstaWaves, then my social status will not only be lost in my current circles, but will be broadcast to circles beyond my reach, and that is dangerous. That is a safety issue, right? Because the kid who ends up in the tiled bathroom of the American high school, cornered, and somebody wants to fight them, that is an amygdala firing event. I mean, that's a fist fight between two kids, and that's an amygdala firing. But knowing that it's going to be simulcasted across the interwebs, I mean, that's right. That's an amygdala firing event. But it's the same thing, like someone who's going to be shamed or ridiculed or have their image broadcast, like knowing that at any moment my social status could be shamed and broadcast or captured in a video format. That has got to be some pretty significant pressure for our current students, and I don't think we've grappled with that. I think that there is fear for their own safety. It's their social safety. There's fear for their own safety, and when your amygdala fires when you feel like you're unsafe, or when you feel like something that someone was described it once is when you see something you hate. And then you're like, wow, like, you're a 12-year-old boy or girl in an American classroom surrounded by social structures that are invisible to the adult. The adult can't ever really see the actual hierarchy and social structures that are happening all around the classroom. And then, add in triggers of shame and loss of status and, under or over performance. There's just all these interesting social triggers that I think are amygdala firing. And I think what's fascinating is we as adults, it's all happening. It's invisible, and we don't see it, right? It's invisible in front of us. And then what's not invisible is what the behavior looks like when the amygdala fires. So here's all these invisible safety threats that are happening. Ping, 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 here, pew, 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 pew. They're happening. They're invisible to me as an adult. And then an amygdala fires in row 3 of my classroom. Pew! And that amygdala fires, and there's fight or flight or freeze. And you're like, that's a real behavior. But all I see as the adult is the behavior. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, kid? And they are having an instinctual, evolutionary appropriate reaction to some stimuli. Because I don't think the hunter-gatherer grown up is shocked when the child jumps into fight, flight, or fear, or freeze when we see the grizzly bear, because the hunter-gatherer grown up can see the grizzly bear. But I don't know that we're seeing the grizzly bear. I think that we are in a world where the fear for our own social safety is somewhat, I don't want to say totally invisible, but it's hard to recognize, because we as the adults, we're not living on TikTok and the Insta whatnot and the Snapchat. We're not seeing the 24-hour-a-day maneuvers that are creating social caste systems and hierarchical rankings amongst the children that we serve in straight rows in front of us. And then when something happens in the classroom that seems invisible to us, and there's a there's a amygdala fire, what we see is the behavior. It's fascinating, man. I didn't know that's where I was going today, because I just started with the caloric rich piece in the banana. But I'm fascinated by it. All right, I'm clearly in the parking lot. People are probably staring like, why is Dr. Eick, talking to himself? All right, hey, my name is John Eick. You can find me on the Twitters at John_Eick. Reach out to me. I love rap with you. All right, have a wonderful day. It's Thursday. I hope you're having a killer Thursday. I'll catch you next time.